Overcoming stress, optimizing performance. These are huge topics, especially in the year 2020. And I'm here with Sasha, who's a mindset coach and actually specializes in those topics. Welcome to the Connection Loop podcast. I'm Shannon Leonard, creative director here at dub.com, the actionable video platform. And we're just going to jump into this podcast with Sasha. So first of all, Sasha, I'd love you to introduce yourself, give us your full name and what you do.
Yeah, thanks, Shannon, so much for having me. I love talking about this because it's so important now. And, like we have an epidemic of stress in, first world countries, America, Australia, the UK, and it's a silent killer. So I'm Sasha Fedorovsky. I'm a mindset and stress transformation coach at The Mindset Daily. You can find a lot of my content on Instagram at The Mindset Daily or LinkedIn. And I'm just trying to get this message out as much as possible because in our modern world, sometimes people don't even realize that they're stressed because it has become so normal. So whatever we experience constantly becomes our new normal. And stress for most people, you might not be a CEO, you might be a stay-at-home mum, but the way that our life is now with technology and all these wonderful things that have so many bonuses, but we are so overstimulated. Even if we're taking time off, where we've got time off work, even our past experiences of stress, if we don't clear them out from our mind and our body, if we don't have practices, they're forever with us, and they are forever, almost like a post-traumatic stress disorder. When we get a little bit of a sample, it's reactivated. So that's what I do. That's really, my priorities to get this message out there.
Wow, that's really cool, especially right now. That's super important. The first question I have for you is around emotional intelligence. So, a lot of people talk about IQ and first of all, it's the concept of being smart, that's very much put on a pedestal in our society. But when you break that down, what is intelligence? And I'd say emotional intelligence is a huge part of that. And as someone who's an expert in that, first of all, what is the difference between IQ and EQ?
Yeah, so IQ, as everyone knows it, it's you kind of like your left brain. It's mathematics, it's lateral thinking. It's a really different type of thinking to emotional intelligence, which also has a lot of misconceptions around it. Emotional intelligence is when you're empathetic to people, when you understand social cues, but I think a lot of people associate it with things that are similar to sales skills, and that's manipulation, right? So emotional intelligence is not being able to understand a person so you can kind of mirror them and manipulate them. I think that's where, we really find these frameworks and these scientifically proven things, and we try and utilize them for our own benefit. That's another thing we do in our society, and then it gets really skewed. So my explanation for emotional intelligence, which is something that genuinely can benefit your life and the people around you, is having a deep sense of self-awareness, right? Not an understanding of the other person so you can manipulate them, but having a true understanding of yourself and your own energy center, because you're an energy center and an energy structure. And the way you're able to manage yourself through deep self-awareness, you're able to have these really connected interactions around you with the people around you from a place of self-knowing, not knowing the other so you can manipulate them. So that's, really my definition. And that's what I, on a deeper level, I work with people so they can truly understand themselves. So it's not these little tools, because you can't teach somebody who's very left brain, who's very, kind of not on the spectrum, but who really doesn't have much emotional intelligence. You can't give them tools and tricks to become emotionally intelligent. It's kind of like a bit of bullshit, really. It's more manipulation on top of that. You need to teach them to understand who they are, to connect with themselves, so that they can connect with other people. So it's not like I have to refer to my guidebook on how to understand this person. That doesn't work.
Wow, that's really interesting. I mean, because at the core of sales and marketing, which you mentioned, it's a lot of the knowledge and the education out there is all about, what can you do to make a ton of money? And it's all about, manipulation. I mean, what is marketing and branding? A lot of it is very manipulative. And I think it's important to be aware of that. To your point, like just being aware of the fact that it's manipulative, maybe then can get you to a level of now using it for good. And what you said was emotional intelligence. You have to start with yourself. That's really interesting. So that sounds like a long process. Where do you begin? Where do you begin in improving emotional intelligence if that's something that you want to do?
Yeah, totally. Look, it's a practice. All good things, they're usually not overnight. But I have developed a program where it's very, very quick because I use intuition, so the intuitive faculty, which, seems a little bit woo-woo. There's nothing too accurate about it on the internet. There's, a few studies here and there, but Einstein talks about it a lot. And, basically he says that the logical mind was always meant to be a servant and the intuitive mind is a master. But in modern society, we changed it around. So, our logical mind, who's meant to be the servant, is in control. So because I'm able to tap into this intuitive faculty and I teach my clients to do the same, they can tap into that deepest part of themselves very quickly, in an instant, actually. So, they're not sitting in therapy for months or years, and, they're not doing all these different processes. There is a tool that allows them to connect to their truth and, the truth of the other party of the world very quickly. So it's just a bit of a learnt tool. So it's, you obviously, the more you practice it, the more it's, normal in your life. So anything we do becomes our normal. But it can be very, very quick. And the other thing I want to mention about what you said, in marketing and sales, we do kind of utilize all these skills. And my background is marketing and television. So why I talk about it in that way is because a lot of these very old systems of sales and marketing, and a lot of the old sales gurus, and even the way that sales is taught today and marketing, it's all manipulative. So manipulation works to a certain degree until it falls back because there's too much resistance to the other, from the other person. So whenever a person or a group of people feel manipulation, there is a resistance. Even if they do hand over the money, they go on the date, you get the account. What will happen if it's through manipulation is it will backfire. The account will give you problems. The date will not want to go on that third date. And, after a while, things turn sour. So in the year 2020, when we've had all these changes in the world and going forward, manipulation more and more is not going to work because, people are looking for more. They are, cracking open and becoming more connected. And, part of becoming emotionally intelligent is cracking open, which is sort of against the grain of our modern world of doing more, getting more, being strong. Even though we talk about vulnerability, part of it is, a bit of this cracking open. So, we can become connected with ourselves and the world around us.
Wow. That's awesome. In the language of be valuable, be focused on them, and this kind of language, I've seen it kind of emerge, I'd say, in the past like 5 years, more and more. And what you're saying, I feel like is like, it's almost like the future of where a lot of that language is going. Like, really getting into yourself, really dealing with that. And I think that some of the language right now, it's heading that direction, right? It's all about providing value, and you have to just, all the tips and tricks are very oriented in that way. So I'm really happy to hear that there's people out there, saying, okay, well, it's beyond just providing value. You got to dig deep. So what's your perspective on this narrative? Have you seen that shift? Have you seen that shift? And do you think it has to do with the way that we're all communicating now, where there's so many people out there, just like, you have to actually be real in a way. You have to remove a level of manipulation to get what you want. So I guess there's a few different questions there, but if I could distill it down to one, what do you think the future of sales and marketing is in regards to emotional intelligence?
I think it's all to do with relationship building, which is probably where sales and marketing started. It's relationship building, but it'll be a more genuine relationship because people, you know, we have the internet, we have all these resources now, but we're also opening up now, especially with what's happening this year on a, you know, economic, physical level, emotional level. You know, there's lots of divorces happening now, lots of people changing their careers, you know, really having time with this, you know, lockdown that's been happened to think and process things. So going forward, I see people, they're not going to be able to just kind of live on this surface level. They're going to want things that are, you know, real, that connect with them, because they're going to be connected with who they are. So in terms of sales and marketing, it's genuine relationship building, not these, you know, kind of things where let's, you know, link a charity to our sales and, you know, we're just going to give them some money. It's genuinely like, is this business, does it have the values that I see? Is, you know, are there people happy? Am I, you know, is this sales rep happy, or are they just trying to, you know, kind of front for this company, and then in a year or a few months, which you see regularly, big turnover in sales, and, you know, a lot of companies, are they going to be at the next company? Because now we're all a brand, you know, more and more people are getting on LinkedIn, you know, they're promoting their brand, you know, or their company's brand on all these social media platforms. So it isn't just about the company and sort of this mask you put on, it's you're visible on all your sites, and who you are as a brand is who the company is going to be. So a lot of people are going to follow you in sales and marketing, and they're going to be buying you. And, you know, companies need to think about this. It's not just looking like, you know, we've got the message and the mission, but genuinely, are their employees happy? Are they satisfied? You know, what energy do they go out to when they have a sale? Or, you know, do they genuinely want to post on their social media platforms about this company? So I think it's going to be more holistic, you know, rather than tick, we've got our charity, tick, we're, you know, got a bit of work-life balance. No, is your culture genuinely emotionally intelligent? Do your employees have self-awareness? Are they balanced? You know, are they going to do ethical things because they're in a good place? Are they going to look after the client because, you know, they have alignment? So it all starts with the individual. You know what I mean? You can't go from the macro to the micro. It has to begin with the micro. And each person, when they do look after themselves, as you said, you know, it's about each person sort of dealing with their own stuff rather than trying to fix other people or give to other people before they genuinely have within themselves. So if each person looks after their own self, then, you know, the world changes in that way. A company changes, a neighborhood changes.
And how do you change a company? Let's say you're a founder of a company and, you know, it's a small team, or maybe even a large team. But how, as a founder of a company, how do you communicate to your employees these kind of values? Because, you know, I don't know. I grew up in Northern California, and you know, there's a lot of, it's the San Francisco sort of the feel good, almost new age words I grew up around, which I think, you know, people can dismiss it because of that. Things like mind and body connection, things like even emotional intelligence, you know, I think in the past they've been dismissed. And I think you even mentioned that briefly as sort of like a hippy dippy thing. But I think that's definitely changing now more than ever. We have data on meditation. We're like, no, actually meditation works scientifically, and things like that. So what would your advice be to a leader of a company who has employees of all different backgrounds? Maybe not all of them grew up in Northern California, you know, and how do you communicate? How do you communicate the how to improve the mind body connection to them in a way that they'll understand?
Yeah. So with leadership, you know, leaders lead through their example. So before they start to communicate anything, you know, downward or horizontally, whichever way they like to see it, they need to begin with themselves and their own emotional intelligence. And for a lot of leaders, this can sometimes be a struggle because they're very focused on the outside and they can get bogged down with responsibilities and things and completely disconnected with what's going on within their company in terms of people and culture. So with leadership, it begins with themselves. You know, taking this personal journey themselves, understanding their communication style, how they affect people, and then implementing some programs to do a similar thing for their people, particularly, people who are client facing, like their salespeople, and from there going into the other teams, because what usually happens in organizations, even if you've got one person per department, these people think in different ways. That's why they're specialists in their role, and they usually don't communicate. So it starts with the leader, then it goes down to, executive level, and then we start to create programs for different departments in the organization. So then when the product is out there, everything is cohesive within the organization before it goes outwards. So definitely with leadership, it's going on that deeper level and making time for their own personal life and their own self-development before they sort of start throwing anything out to the organization. Because things really don't change through more information, with more models, with more 3-step processes or things like that. They change when people transform their energy, the way, not necessarily what they say, but the way they say it to people, the way that they engage people, the way that they smile at people, or, don't say that condescending thing that they were going to say. So it's all small things which comes from a change of being, not learning more information or, throwing out more, more things to do for their staff.
Yeah, that's a great actionable tip for all the leaders out there in business. So you're someone who's on LinkedIn. I think everyone right now wants to get exposure on LinkedIn. They want to get exposure online. And you have a niche, right? You're talking about overcoming stress, improving relationships, well-being. How has that been? How's your journey been on LinkedIn and other social platforms? First of all, kind of what drew you to become a personal brand or a brand, or creating a company, I see right here the Mindset Daily. Like I'd love to dive into what that is and how that happened. So how did you get into starting your personal brand, and then what's the results? Like where are you on your journey on LinkedIn and beyond?
So it's been a bit of a journey, because this all started for me personally. My background is in corporate and television. I used to have a TV show, and I used to work with celebrities, and obviously there's quite a sales process to that. And I've also worked in global corporates where it's dealing with C-level and different parts of management. So having a personal brand for me, slowly doing this, took some emotional intelligence. I had to really understand my brand, and my brand has developed because I also used to teach yoga, and I started to realize that what worked for me in my television career, in my corporate life, I needed to create this for those people because they're heavily stressed, and I experienced that myself. And when you're going down one of these career paths, you begin to lose yourself, and you start to forget that person who started on this journey and why. You really forget that. You begin to lose yourself because there's time pressure, there's stress, there's image pressure, and you begin to lose yourself. So, what my program that I've developed is very, very efficient. It's very quick, and it's specifically for people in this, in this world, which, I was myself, and I work with in different industries, and now I work with coaching them, on their mindset, on their well-being, on their emotional intelligence. So for me, going on LinkedIn was a last step. I used to do a lot on Instagram and Facebook. LinkedIn, I think for a lot of people, is probably, probably the most intimidating platform in a way, especially when they're changing brands or careers, because it's really all about what I teach. It's about taking off the mask, the layers, and really knowing yourself. Like, you're either going to copy other people, you'll run out of content. If you don't know yourself, if you don't have self-awareness, and if you really want people to connect with you, it has to be a real unique message, and it's only going to come from you. You're not going to find it on YouTube. You can't copy other people. You can't go on Instagram and steal quotes. You will just, people will feel it. You will feel, especially on LinkedIn, it's pretty bland. You really got to find yourself and know yourself. And part of the journey is actually being okay with sharing that, because when you first start sharing online, it brings up everything for you. You know, it brings up all your beliefs, your insecurities. It's cracking open, it's cracking the mask, and having, you know, people genuinely connect to you. It's just going back to that one-to-one relationship building. So for me, I think it started to really flourish when I became more of myself. I no longer had that corporate LinkedIn persona, and I started to share more of, you know, who I was, you know, in my day-to-day life. So I think it's a fantastic platform for people to genuinely connect, you know, in the future going forward.
That's awesome. And so the Mindset Daily, what is this? I see it's on your banner on your LinkedIn profile, but tell me about the Mindset Daily.
Look, well, I'm a mindset coach, and you know, if you really want to get results, you create from your mind. You got to have a practice every day. You have to have reminders every day, because you know, up to the age of about 30, 35, you're pretty much just a pattern of beliefs. You're no longer in the present moment. You are just an automatic pattern of beliefs. You no longer have an experience with someone and, you know, act. You just react based on past experience. And, you know, usually people come to this place, you know, around 28. You know, a lot of celebrities commit suicide, very successful, high profile people. It's the age, you know, of 28. Amy Winehouse, I think Heath Ledger. Look into it. It's called the Return of Saturn, and that's when your identity sets in. So, you know, a few years after that, it's like if you haven't, you kind of go through a difficult experience in your life. And from there, people usually go on a search or something like that, or they stay the same. You know, they may not be able to change, or, you know, they may not know what to do. So, you know, when people come to me, they're usually late 30s, 40s. They've had their business, they've had their career, maybe they've had kids, and maybe they've had a divorce or a separation. So they don't have a choice anymore. But, you know, my aim or my mission is to have people to do this at a early stage, you know, so it's a preventative, you know, it's a daily practice, you know, just like brushing your teeth or exercising for some people now. It's something that you have to do every day so that everything else works. You don't need to think about everything else. Your mindset is the first thing that you are, you know, working on before, you know, you work on your family relationship, your business, your physical image. Your mindset is the driver. So you got to do that things first. So the Mindset Daily is about, you know, having this daily practice, this daily reminder of who you are at your core, what your mission is in life, what it is you're doing. And, you know, long term, that's emotional intelligence, that's happiness, that's joy, that allows you this kind of cracking open and to be in the world openly and, you know, attracting these synchronicities.
So if you're feeling stuck and in your job, in your work, or maybe just in your life in general, what's a first step? Because I love that idea of a daily practice and little bite things, little first steps that you can do. So if anyone out there is feeling stuck, what would you say to them in how to take that first step to kind of improve their mindset and, you know, get to a place where when they, you know, whether they're after the age of 28 or before, you know, get to a place where they feel good about where they are? What's that first step?
Yeah, so for a lot of people, they're just too busy. They don't have the space in their life to even breathe or to, you know, to feel the stress or to feel what's bad, you know. And in our culture, it's very much positive thinking has been sort of the last kind of craze, but we can't just put positive thinking on top of a whole energy body of negativity and pain. It makes it worse. It's like, you know, kind of having a tree, like a dying tree, and you're painting the leaves green. It's very time consuming, very exhausting, and it just doesn't work. So the first thing I would suggest to people who are in this state, usually they don't have enough time, they're in a cycle, and it's like a chronic state of, you know, unhappiness and dissatisfaction, whether you feel it or not. So I'd recommend this to everyone. Wake up a little bit earlier than you usually do. Now, I'm not this 5 a.m. person where, you know, you sleep 4 hours and you have to be super productive. No, just wake up maybe half an hour earlier if you can. Because the first thing is we don't create the space. We don't create space to be bored, to be quiet, to not have people around us. So you know, before sort of, you know, around that 6 a.m. time is usually the world is quiet. Before you have to tend to your meetings, your things like that, make it at night if you need be. But usually early in the morning is ideal. And, you know, just start sitting in stillness. The first thing you do when you wake up, just get into a seated position and sit in stillness. If you have a meditation practice, do that. That's great. If you don't know what meditation is, don't worry about it. Just have your mind quiet for a few minutes. And I'm going to tell you the reason why, because most people won't do this because they don't see a return on investment. But this is your return on investment on sitting in silence, is that every day you have this frenzy of thoughts in your mind, the busyness, it builds up. In the morning, the first thing, it's actually quite high. You know, if you haven't dealt with things during the night, you're still in that state. And what you want to do is bring yourself to neutral. So you're not going to find God or become enlightened from just sitting for a few minutes, but you will get your emotional energy, your thoughts, all that buzz to a neutral state. So the next part of the day, you're not constantly building up on this intense stress energy, this negative thinking or whatever it is, just intent, the monkey mind. You start with neutral, right? So even if you do 10 minutes a day, you're neutralizing your mind. So when you go out into the world, you're a little bit calmer, you're a little bit quieter, things flow, you know, you don't run late, you're not getting into that accidents. And on top of that, if you want to add an extra layer, if you're like, look, I really need to do something, I can feel I'm not happy, I'm stressed. After sitting in silence, start to write. Maybe if you're right-handed, use your left hand. Don't think about it. You don't have to be a great writer. It's not going to be on a media platform or anything. Start writing for yourself and just begin to write. Write out your feelings, your thoughts, anything at all, and maybe set a timer, write for 10 minutes. And, you know, it can sound like absolute crap, but after a while, you will start getting answers. Start asking your questions. Why do I feel like this? You know, what do I love? Why am I upset? Why am I tired? You will be amazed of what comes out on that paper, and start reading it back a week later, because what you'll begin to do after this sitting in silence and this sort of, it's called subconscious writing or unconscious writing. You will stop writing with your thinking mind, your day-to-day, you know, programming, that 35 years of pattern and reaction, and you will start to write from your true self, you know, your inner being or your higher self, or something that is called the observer in meditation. So it's not the thinking mind. If you can observe your thoughts, there's something else behind it. You know, we don't need to put a label on it, but we can call it the observer, and you will begin to get answers to your questions. And, you know, if you start to do this for a while, you will naturally become more self-aware and more emotionally intelligent, because you're beginning to connect with your true being, not that thinking mind, not that programming from media, parents, TV, culture, but who you truly are. And you will start to see the obvious action, the obvious next step in life. So it's not all going to happen straight away, but you will notice a big difference in a week, in a month, in a year. Your life will change.
That's really cool. I'd even say everyone should try this, right? You know, and I, especially if you're feeling stuck, and that's a fantastic answer, but everyone I'd say should try this. You know, an app that I've used in the past is Jour, Jour. And what I really like about it, it's a journaling app. And what's really cool is it gives you prompts. So for anyone out there who doesn't know where to start with, you know, your journaling or your writing, it gives you prompts, and also it gives you sort of like an SOS moment where you can go in and say, I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling anxiety, and then it'll give you prompts that relate to that. And you know, it's very open-ended, it's all private, it's just within this, you know, little journal, and you can kind of use it how you want. But it's a venture-backed company that's getting some buzz in like the meditation-esque community. Shall we say? I don't know if that's a technical term, the meditation-esque community, but I know that I've personally seen some buzz about this app, and it's been helpful for me, so I'd recommend that. But if not, just I love exactly what you said, like just writing and just sitting for a few minutes. Thank you for that. That's fantastic. I'd recommend everyone who's listening try that at least for tomorrow. So my next question, everyone, you know, you focus on performance, stress, but also relationships and well-being. You know, everyone has that especially if you're busy or you're stuck in the grind. Even now we're all at home, but we're constantly working. There's people in your life that you wish you would have, kept in touch with, or or maybe it's a work friend, maybe it's a personal friend. But the longer it goes on, the more that kind of weighs on you. From your opinion and from your experience, what's something you can do to overcome that? And if you have 10 friends, how do you prioritize that to reaching out to a few of them?
So I'll just let you know that not everyone has this problem. It's
Yeah.
busy people who are focused on, what they're creating in life, their work, their success. So it's kind of an avatar that I deal with constantly, because I was totally in this space, and that's why my programs are so quick. They're so bite-sized and so effective, because these type of people, they don't have time. And really, when they come to me, it's usually men in their 40s who have experienced separation or divorce or some kind of a personal breakdown. That's what truly brings people to this space, because the most important thing at the end for everyone is their relationships and their connection. And while they've been busy for many years bringing food on the table, being of service, of value, being the breadwinner, creating these things that their life has been driven by, the relationships are slowly falling apart. And to answer your question is, if you know that you have these people you want to connect with, but you're not making time for it, you can't force that. If I tell you, write a schedule, write it in your diary, call them, you will find less and less time, because there's something that's stopping you and blocking you for that. And because for you personally, what I'm getting intuitively, and this is going to speak to a lot of people, so I'm just going to answer this.
Absolutely.
Is your focus is completely on success and the external world. And sometimes speaking to these people who are probably your closest people, it's probably your family, your best friends, people who knew you for a long time, it brings up emotions, right? And for a lot of success-orientated people, they suppress emotions of sadness and depression, right? And when you do speak to these closest people, it is emotional. You may have not spoken to them a while, you go deep. They don't see that LinkedIn you, they don't see the Instagram successful you, that all the other people that, because you're seeing people all the time in your day-to-day life, you're having relationships, but it's the deeper ones, not the superficial ones, that you're resisting, because you're resisting these deeper feelings. And, these are the feelings we need to crack open if everything is going to be connected, if you're really going to become self-aware, and if calling the people that you love the most isn't going to be a chore or a task. So, and a lot of people do go through this, and a lot of successful people that I know, that I work with, they have no personal life or no personal relationships. And, they look like the beacon of success and popularity on the outside. And, a lot of people value them. They know a lot of people, but their personal, intimate connections are absolutely lacking. It's a desert, because nothing bad about them, nothing of their own fault. It's because they are disconnected to their own emotions, so they cannot let people in. And as you get older, it becomes wider and wider. And so that's why a lot of the clients that come to me are usually at that point, it's just rock bottom, right? So if everybody does this from an early stage, as you build your business, as you build your career, you slowly deal with these emotional things so that there's no gap, so that you don't need to force yourself to call your best friend or to start unraveling your heart and your energy centers. Because when we're so busy, we're focused on work, it's great, but you'll notice that you never get less busy. It becomes an addiction. It's a part of your programming. It's part of your default system. And unless you are doing the mindset daily, where each day you are cleaning out the past experience, the emotional baggage, which sits in your body as well and cause disease in the body, then these things become harder and harder. You need to schedule more, you have less time, and eventually your relationships, they do break down. So my advice to you is begin doing the mindset daily. Spend that time every day to have a practice where you're connected to yourself. You clean out what you don't need anymore emotionally. You deal with, kind of these pains and these hurts. You're with that feeling of sadness before you get onto your positive affirmations and get on the treadmill. You clean out those things so that you're just inspired to make that phone call. You're inspired to connect. It feels natural. It's no longer a burden, because anything that has resistance, it's not going to last. We're always going to have to force ourselves. So my whole thing is that motivation doesn't work. It's, it doesn't work long term. Yo-yo dieters, making heaps of profit to being in bankruptcy, it doesn't work. We need to, everything happens internally. So we need to remove the resistance. And the way that we do it is we clear our emotional baggage every single day.
That's amazing. Yeah. So, and how do we do that in the world of, everyone's now forced to be separate? What can we do to, especially if, there's a place where you have your friend group, maybe you met them in school, maybe you met them at work, but then maybe throughout the years, even through I could say for myself, you go through different phases in life, and then you find, yourself, you maybe have a close core group of people, but maybe it's just, a few people that are around. Like I think for me, I have maybe 3 or 4 people who are just really close, And then now, especially now, we're all forced to stay away from like the kind of social situations where you'd meet new people. It could be anything from a party to like a professional conference or an event. So, but I still get this feeling that while I'm satisfied with, I'm okay, and I can exist by just like continuing to work and continuing to have a few people who I do touch, people around me I'm lucky enough to have in my life. But you still feel like, okay, wait, I should be doing more. I should be meeting more people. And, personally, I feel like I'm like an ambivert where like there's extroverts and introverts, and I'm like an ambivert. So like I'm kind of comfortable being introverted, but I still know that I want to be out there more and make new friends. And so what's that first step, especially in the world where there's a pandemic and it's hard to actually go in physical spaces?
Yeah, this is a really great question. And it's not a question that a lot of people ask, and we don't get taught about friendship, especially adult friendship at school. It's sort of, there's no place for friendship in the adult life. So most people are hanging on to friends that they had a long time ago, and we change, we expand. If we're just going to hold on to those friends that we had growing up, we're kind of energetically causing each other to stay put. So we need to, we still obviously want to have these friends through life, and still be connected, but we always want to expand and always have room for new people, new interactions. And it doesn't mean that we have to keep adding people on and have less time and see everybody every week. But we need to understand that we grow and expand, that we need to constantly be actually making new friends for different stages of our life, and also letting people go, or being okay with not having to see that person. And it all comes down to knowing yourself, not doing it from a superficial external thing, because that just, that feeling of more, I should be doing more. It's filling that empty gap, which a lot of successful people and people who value success, they always think that they need to be useful, doing more, having more, being more. And that in itself is a trap. So be okay with having space in your life, because you kind of need to create space to bring in something new, especially in terms of relationship, because they cause a lot of, there's a lot of energy that goes into relationships and a lot of energy exchange. So we need to let go of things and people that aren't serving us and be okay with that. The baseline of that is knowing that we're whole and coming back to this place every day of wholeness through meditation, journaling, doing a program, having a coach, having, knowing who we are. And in that way, we're not just going to be attracting people, because we all have heaps of friends on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, but having those close connections, they need to be the right connections. They need to be connections where you're supported. They can't be frenemies. And I actually did a video. It was very, very popular, and it was on friendships. And it's about knowing, how do you know who is a real friend? Because we have people that we talk to, that we see a lot of, but are they your friends? And the real factor of, is this person your friend, is not just if they're going to be for you in bad times, because a lot of people will be there for you in bad times because they're attracted to negative energy. That's why we watch the news. That's why the news is full of bad news, because we inherently have pain within us that we're not clearing, and we're attracted to that, and thus negative people, who bring us down, that we're feeding with our negative energy. So the marker of a true friend is someone who's genuinely happy for your success, who's genuinely there celebrating with you, and that wants the best for you. And it's not to say that these people that aren't, they're not bad people. They're not doing the work. They're not doing the mindset daily. They don't know who they are. So that confusion is going to energetically, get messy in your life. So allow your space to be empty. Allow yourself to let people go who are not relevant, who you're not connected to for the sake of having someone there. And get to know yourself, who you really are, do the work, and you'll notice that you don't have to be out there finding people or looking for people, because when you're seeking from the wrong place, you find the wrong thing. So open up this space, know yourself, and you will meet the right people, whether it's an intimate relationship or friendships, which are extremely important for our mental well-being and for our own, our own direction in life. They'll come to you, whether it's online, through a spontaneous connection, through somebody else, they will come. And, I experienced the same in my own life when I was working in TV, in corporates. When you are working on these kinds of projects and sort of living this external life that looks amazing, a lot of people actually can become put off, whether it's intimidated or they no longer feel the same. And you find yourself with less and less intimate people. And the more you go out and you try and find people, they're the wrong people. And it's more of the emptiness and kind of stealing your energy. They're stealing from you energetically, and you're stealing from yourself. So let it go, create the space, get to know yourself, and the right people in the right numbers will come, and you will feel full when you feel full in yourself.
For the audio listeners out there, I'm nodding along to everything you're saying, because this is really great. And I love that of just not trying, letting it happen, because that's all we can do, right? And wow, and I have to say, we are here at dub.com. We're all about connection. We're all about communication. And that's what our platform does on some level, where you can't meet people physically. We allow you to send videos easily, make them actionable. So this is something that, but not forcing it. I think that actually relates to something that could be relevant for our users, because in like sales and marketing, this kind of actually loops back to the beginning of our conversation, manipulation, right? And if you're forcing something, whether it's over a video or in person, that's not going to get the right result, right? If you're forcing something, that is manipulation, right? And by saying, okay, wait, what's the natural? What's honest here? Finding that honesty is that's where the value comes, I believe, and that's what I took from what you were saying. So wow, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Where can people find you? Where can people get the Mindset Daily? Tell us, please.
Yeah, so at the moment I'm having a bit of a website makeover. So the best place is LinkedIn. It's Sasha Fedorovsky Mindset Coach, or on Instagram, you can go through all my content, all my videos on various topics. So they're like mini mindset trainings. The handle is _mindset_daily. And for your viewers, I also have a little bit of a gift. So it's sort of how you can start living this way of life. It is a 3-step process, but it's the fail-proof solution, motivation not required. So how you can live with more space in your life, and rather than pushing, forcing, trying to motivate yourself, whether it's to lose weight, to be in a relationship, or for your career success, whatever it is, how you can live in this spacious, free way where you clear emotional baggage, you know yourself, and you no longer have to force every freaking thing that you do. And if you just shoot me an email, or I can put up a link below, they can download that. But thank you so much for having me. You asked fabulous questions that I think a lot of people are thinking.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And that's Sasha, Sasha Fedorovsky, is that how I pronounce it right? Fedorovsky, Fedorovsky. type that into LinkedIn. And yeah, we'll add a link below in the comment section. So thank you so much, and we'll catch you next time on the Connection Loop podcast.
Thank you.
Farewell. Bye-bye.